Thank you all so much for your patience. You know how the technical world is. So, of course, these two beautiful pictures paying homage to Dr. Sarr, and on the right is one of our brothers from the Haitian Bridge Alliance. This is my brief agenda. This is a QR code that will take you to this presentation. So the biggest question I have is, can we get the PowerPoint? Yes. Take out your phones. Get this QR code, you will have the PowerPoint at your fingertips. So we're going to look at some data, we're going to look at the context for Black immigrants, we're going to talk a little bit about civic engagement, which we've been talking about this morning, a couple of slides on refugees, lots of slides on data around education, housing, employment, and so forth. Talk a little bit about resilience and then close out, right? A little bit about who I am, you already heard. I'm from the great country of Guyana. I know a lot of people like to, like to link ourselves as Caribbean folks because we're the only English-speaking country in South America. So we kind of are close to Trinidad, we're close to Barbados, we're close to Jamaica, so we're kind of become Caribbean, right, by association. I'm also a community activist. This is me at a school board meeting. I'm also a yogi, and this is my heart, my son on your left. He is away at college in Missouri, first year. So that's a little bit about who I am. The data sources today are from the American Community Survey, also known as the ACS, the National Equity Atlas, which I would highly, highly recommend you go to. There's a lot of information there that we backfill. There's some stuff from Homeland Security. The data challenge is always that the Black migrant population is small, so sometimes you don't see all that you're looking for because the population sample is small. So why is it important for us to use data? It improves our lives, it empowers us, it identifies problems, impacts, and solutions, it helps us with funding, it holds folks accountable, and it establishes baselines and benchmarks. And most of all, it helps to keep us moving forward. So a lot of reasons why we need data. This should be in all of your grant applications, this slide right here. The context for immigrants in the U.S., right? Black immigrant population has increased, especially those coming from Africa. It is still a very hostile political environment, as you all see on the news played out almost every day. But there's a lot of emerging national and regional networks such as this one. The context in Michigan, it's a destination for African and Caribbean migrants, and it's one of the states that are also receiving a lot of refugees. We'll look at that slide later. And so some of the federal support that you have over time, starting with the Refugee Act in 1980, and then the Diversity Visa Program, and subsequently a lot of TPS support for Cameroon, South Sudan and Sudan, Ethiopia, Haiti, and Somalia. And you see this in the news all the time, so I just wanted to put those dates there so folks know that these folks with TPS, this is when they expire. And typically they get extended, but it is what it is for now. So who are Black immigrants? We talked about that earlier. 1 in 5 Black people in the U.S. are either immigrants or children of immigrants. So even if you're in this room and you're not a citizen, you can't vote, you're probably living with someone that is a citizen. So it's your job to get all the people in your household to go vote, because more than likely you're living with someone that is a citizen that can vote, right? And so on the right, and this is research done by the Pew Center a few years ago. This is from an analysis in 2019, looking at U.S. immigrants on the right, all of U.S. immigrants on the right, and then Black immigrants in the countries that they're from. I'll go quickly because there's a lot of slides. So for this slide, I wanted you to see sort of the Black population in Michigan, and most of my slides are about Michigan. There might be 1 or 2 that are specifically to Detroit, but I wanted to keep this conversation really about Michigan as a whole. This is from 2010. So if you look closely at, for example, the Nigerian population in 2010, Jamaican population here in 2010 was about 4,000 people, right? If you look at 2020, those same numbers, just keep looking at those two countries. Jamaican moved to 6.8 thousand, Nigerian 6,000, right? I'm just using those two as an example. And then just 2 years later, in 2022, the number of Jamaicans are the same, the number of Nigerians are the same, but the new group on this slide is Sudanese, almost 3,000, and that wasn't there before. So it just gives you an idea of how quickly immigrants are coming into Michigan, right? Again, you have these slides at your fingertips, so you can go back to them. Sorry, did somebody say something? Feel free to shout out a question if you have it, if I'm moving too fast, right? I don't mind interaction. So this is looking at both U.S.-born and immigrants in these different communities. So looking at the third bar over, the Caribbean, West Indian, or Jamaican, the next bar. Let's look Jamaican because Sophie is in the room. 43% are U.S.-born, right? And of the Jamaicans that live here, 57% are born here. That's how you read that slide. Similarly for Nigeria, 28% are U.S.-born, 72% are immigrants. So just kind of giving you an idea, when folks say they're Jamaican, doesn't mean they're all born in Jamaica, right? Some of them are born here, but they consider themselves Jamaican also. And you know, the census is self-reported, so people can check any box. You can check whatever box you want, and it gets calculated in this way. So it's important to check the right boxes. And that was 2020, that was 2022. And then I just wanted to show you a more up-to-date, specific list of how folks identify themselves in Michigan. And so you see the top 3, 4 highest groups are Nigerian, Sudanese, Congolese, and Somalian in Michigan right now. I think this is as of last year. Anything surprising on this list? What's surprising? Again, this is what people are self-selecting, but the Nigerian number isn't surprising, right? Is the Sudanese number surprisingly that high? Yeah, that was a surprise. So let's talk a little bit about the population change and migration flow, which we've been talking about anyway. Immigrants have accounted for all the net population growth in Michigan over the past decades. Without immigrants, the population and the economy would be in decline. So if you look at the top slide, the ones in gray, right, are immigrants, not that many in the 80s. And then we get to the 90s, and the gray bar is now 168,000 immigrants coming in. Then we get to the 2000s, and that number is 71%, but the population of U.S. born is declining. And then we get to 2010 to 2020, the last 10 years, and the population has grown even more. And if we just take the black population from that other slide, if we just filter it down to black, you can see that the black American folks, the black U.S. born folks, are also declining in Michigan, and the immigrant population is growing. Make sense? Civic engagement, I won't spend too much time on this, but this is a map that we worked on, Immigrants Rock the Vote. It's a map of the entire country and where folks have naturalized. If you do naturalization work and you target folks that have just been naturalized to vote, then you know to go to specific places, right? And so for Michigan, you had 7,800 people, black people, that were immigrants that were now able to vote this year. So hopefully we're getting all those folks to the polls. But this is a map that covers the entire country. Just a quick slide on refugees, just so you can see the refugees. So this is for refugees for the entire, in the world. These are the top 4. Congo at number 1, Syria, Burma, and Sudan are the top 4 countries. I circled it in red, so there's a lot of numbers there. You can see in 2022, the numbers were really high, right? 7,700 refugees coming in from the Congo and 1,600 coming in from Sudan. And then the place where they're coming to, these are the top country. These are the top states. California is like a country. These are the top states. They're coming to California, Texas, New York, Kentucky, Washington, North Carolina, Michigan. These are the numbers, right? So it's just really important to have some of this data as it relates to the rest of the country, because you don't want to just sort of live in the bubble of Michigan, but you also want to know, how am I faring to other states, right? What are we doing well? What's working in other states? What's California doing that we can copy since they're getting a lot of migrants too? How can we work with them to, so it's really important to have sort of a larger sense of the world. A little bit about housing, and I'm running out of time, so looking at this, right, housing burden, meaning they're spending more than 30 to 50% of their salary on housing. And you can see the burden for Black immigrants is at 46%. The burden of US-born Blacks is much higher. Switching to home ownership, right, because I want to look at both sides. Home ownership, Black migrants are owning homes in Michigan, 45%, compared to our US-born Black folks at 41%. So do with that information as you wish. But it's still very low, right, compared to our white immigrant group, which is owning homes at 72%, right? So just everything in context, right? A little bit on wages, our labor force. Black immigrants are in the labor force, 81%. I'm sure you all feel that in this room, right? Immigrants with many jobs. Specifically for Black folks, right? If we break it down, Caribbean folks, 85%, Sub-Saharan folks, 81%, and so forth. Working poverty in Michigan, immigrants are nearly twice as likely to be working poor. So they're working, but they're not really getting good wages, right? That's the issue. And that is happening all across the country, not just here. I just did a presentation in Moreno Valley in California, the Inland Empire, and job scale was like 200% off the charts, right? Earnings was at 37%. So people are working, but they're not in really well-paid jobs, so you can see that here. And as the description said, $52,000 for a family of 4 on average. Median wage, Black immigrants are earning about $19 in Michigan, compared to white immigrants earning about $25 and Asian American immigrants earning $34, right? Unemployment, right? This is Michigan. We only have about 6% of Black immigrants unemployed, so that correlates to the other graph where most of us were employed, right? But the interesting factor for me in this is the US-born Black folks are at 11% unemployed. And so this graph can actually support that narrative where you hear immigrants are coming in to take our jobs, right? But I wouldn't go there with that. I think there's so many other reasons why this 11% is happening. So I'll leave that for another presentation, though. I don't want to digress. Education. In Michigan, Black immigrants, 37% are having a BA degree or higher, right? And I just did a scan just of the Detroit, Warren, Livia area, and it's very similar, right? 39% of black immigrants in this Detroit area are higher educated. Just so that was the only one I did in Detroit. And so there's a couple more. I'll go through to the last slide around resilience. You've got some thriving Black immigrant communities. You've got a supported governor that's really trying to welcome immigrants, and the education system is really supporting the over 16,000 immigrant students. I know this was a lot. Here are some resources you all know very well. Here's my contact information. And thank you so much. I'm out of time. Wait, I think I'm going to go back to the first slide where the QR code was, because someone wanted the QR code again. But I'll be here all day. We can talk if folks have questions. Thank you.